Hi guys. Hi. Back on the couch. So exciting. Let's see who joins me. Let me tag some friends. Just going down the list here, tagging everyone. See if we get any viewers. See how it goes. Hi, Daddy. All right, guys. So today we're talking about anxiety. We're going to talk a little bit about depression and getting out of a funk. Maybe I'll start there because we didn't have too many tips, too many discussion topics on depression. I think depression is a much harder diagnosis for people in general when we're uncomfortable with how we feel and talking about how we feel. I think it's easier to be like, oh, I'm so anxious, than, oh, I'm so depressed, because there's connotations that go along with both things. So if any of you are shy about talking about the depression or aren't sure, if what you're experiencing is depression, maybe it's postpartum depression, maybe it's a major depressive episode, maybe it's chronic depression, maybe it's depression due to an adjustment disorder or an adjustment in your life. So, we can definitely talk a little bit more about that. But what I will say about depression is that the hardest part about it is pushing through it, because nothing changes with depression unless you put the effort in to do the things that you don't want to do. Signs of depression are things like lack of interest in things you normally find enjoyable, a depressed mood, so sadness, worthlessness, feelings of guilt, excessive thoughts about death or suicide, increase or decrease in appetite, increase or decrease in sleep. These are all symptoms of depression. If you experience any of these things for more than 2 weeks at a time, it's something I would definitely contact a clinical professional to discuss and work through. But in general, the best ways to cope with depression are to be forcing ourselves to kind of push through the things that are really difficult to do. And with the help of a guided professional, you should be able to get through some of those things and build skills to help you work through each area of your life that might be difficult. That could be work, that could be social, that could be your home life. So it's hard to discuss depression unless we're speaking about the topic specifically or a question specifically. So if anyone has any out there, please feel free to comment. But what we're really going to talk about today is anxiety, in particular panic attacks. So hi guys, I see a few of you have popped on. I know that some of you, there was a few questions actually about anxiety, and there were a few questions in the past about panic attacks too. So I thought this was an interesting topic. I'm going to read the comments that were asked, the questions that were asked to me. I had two. So the first was, someone just said this, right? Hey, Kathy. I almost passed out in my therapist's office yesterday. I had to put my head in between my legs. Never has this ever happened to me. It scared me, but I know I have a ton going on right now. Actually, it just feels like a ton on me. So some person experienced what they thought was, passing out may feel like a panic attack. There are some signs of panic, right? We might experience head, heart, and stomach pain. All right, so maybe a headache, throbbing pain, heart, it might be beating out of your chest. You may even feel like you're having a heart attack. Stomach, can get knots in your stomach, feelings like butterflies. It can also feel like you're going to pass out. Extreme heat or cold you may experience as well, like hot or cold flashes, numbness, tingling, a sense of you're going to die or you're going crazy. These are some signs of a panic attack. Usually a panic attack will peak at around 10 minutes. Throwing up. Yes, throwing up is actually the physical response to a panic attack. So you may throw up after feeling so uncomfortable in the stomach that it will be the physical response to it as well. We can definitely get ourselves that worked up. I actually have patients who suffer so badly with anxiety that throwing up is part of their condition at this point, and they fear throwing up now because it's happened, so it becomes actually a cyclic effect. So if we're experiencing panic now, so this person experienced, I'm feeling like I'm going to pass out. I put my head between my legs, and it's never happened to me before, and I'm scared, but I know I'm overwhelmed with stuff. So sometimes a panic attack can come on out of nowhere. It can happen with no real, to you, no real signs, no real understanding of why. There is always a reason or trigger for your panic. We may not even recognize that trigger is there. And that's part of the reason why therapy can be so helpful, because it's the guidance and assessment and the piece or a puzzle piece that you may be missing that a therapist can help sort of assess and figure out. But often, when you're feeling that intense feeling of panic, if you do or do not know what it's caused by, there are some tips that I have for you. It's actually a really easy acronym to remember. TIP. TIIP. Okay. So if you're experiencing an innate sense of panic, the first thing you would want to do is change the temperature of your body. Okay? That's your T, temperature. So if most of the time we get excessively hot. I have had people who have had cold flashes or chills. So you would want to rev up your body in the other direction. So you would want to splash some cold water on your face, get a cold rag. Now, these things may not be possible right in the moment. You may not be able to jump in a cold shower or hot bath to change the mood in that very moment that you're feeling panic, like at the therapist's office. In that case, you may want to focus or distract yourself on certain things. But we're going to go through the tip first, the acronym, and then we're going to work on some other things. So I wrote these all down. So the other I is ICE technique. So now if you have a heart condition or if you've ever had a heart attack, this is not something I would suggest you do. But there's something called the dive reflex. Our body shuts down when we go deep diving into freezing cold water. Our body will shut down to save energy and only keep primal needs going, right? Only our primal body needs will need to function. So it shuts everything else down. Our anxiety, our emotions are part of the body that we don't need right then. So it shuts those down or calms them completely. Why does this matter? You're not going to go deep sea diving, right? No. But fill a cold sink with cold water, ice, get a bag of peas, do whatever you can to get that temperature of the water really cold. And then dunk your face in that water for as long as you can hold your breath and lift up. Take a deep breath in and out, dunk your face again. You can do this until your response shuts down. It shouldn't take long. Again, this may not be feasible, but if you're having a panic attack in your home or somewhere that you can do this, this is something that will immediately shut down your body and re-regulate it, which will help immensely with that sense of panic. The other I, so it's TIIP, right? I is intense exercise. Interesting, right? A lot of these are hyping the body up in a sense, right? We feel like, oh, ice would sort of get me all wild up, or intensive exercise would get me all wild up. Well, the problem is if we want to cope and calm, sometimes it's too hard if your body is all keyed up. So when we're in that anxiety mentality, we need to work towards decreasing the amount of energy that we are exhibiting. So if we run really fast in place, we can jog, we can run around the block a few times, whatever. You can jump up and down, jump rope, anything to sort of get rid of that excessive energy that's fueling some of that stress, right? So if we can get rid of it, we can calm the body down. Next one is P. P is a different one. We've talked about this before. Progressive muscle relaxation. PMR. So this is when we mindfully tense certain parts of the body and hold that tension for 5 seconds and release it. Okay? You might hold the tension in your shoulders. Hold them really high and release it. Okay? You might do this with your eyebrows. Now don't worry about my funny faces here. scrunch up your face, really scrunched up, and release it. Okay, so why does this work? Well, our body, again, is so keyed up. Can't get this thing to stay straight. Our body is so keyed up that it's not working, right, to function. I'm sorry, give me 1 second to get my head back into straight. There we go. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm gonna hold it. All right, so, hi, Megan. Where were we? Progressive muscle relaxation. So squeezing the muscles and tensing them and then releasing them actually gives our body that ability to get comfortable again. So, this is something that you can try on your own. And if you don't know how to do it, you can, hi guys. Hi Heather, love you too. YouTube is your friend, guys. I actually considered maybe putting up a progressive muscle relaxation or a guided meditation on my YouTube channel. Maybe I will do that. But if you, in the interim, need to find one, you can look up on YouTube, progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR, and they will do there are guided PMR skits on there so that you can work through and learn how to do it on your own. There's also a great app that I've mentioned here once before, and it's called Virtual Hope Box. And if you download that, it is free, and it does have some progressive muscle relaxation guides as well. So those are my tips on if you're feeling like an intensity that doesn't go away, or if you feel like you have panic attacks super often, this could be something that would be helpful. There are some other techniques that I have that I personally use that I thought would be really great. I also want to mention, someone else said, if I'm having an anxiety attack or getting anxious, how do I stop it or help it in the moment? So this is really interesting. I myself have anxiety attacks, and they have gotten worse as I've gotten older. And there's many reasons why I believe that is the case. So what I have done recently that's been really helpful is, one, I decide, am I capable of changing the thought? So right away, I start to notice, like, I'm anxious about, okay, I'll tell you some things, impending doom. For me, I will wake up in the middle of the night with the fear that I'm going to die, or that something terrible is going to happen to me, and that my children will be left alone. And I start to let those thoughts just overwhelm me and make me uncomfortable. And the thought of me dying just starts to take over. And there's no real thought in my head. I'm going, you're not dying, nothing's wrong, calm down, you'll be okay. A lot of that positive self-talk. That's a great thing that you can do when you're maybe after your body's already relaxed. But when you're hyped up and in your head and your heart's racing and things are going, it is really hard to start thinking or disputing all of those anxious thoughts, right? Because your brain is just not there. So the things I have used that are super helpful are mindful distractions. So the first one I use is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things I see, 4 things I hear, 3 things I can feel, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. Okay? And that helps my body start to recognize what's going on around me outside of, the environment that may be creating the anxiety, and helping me ground my body. Okay? That helps me ground myself using my senses. So I might, right now, here, I'll just give you an example, okay? If I were looking around the room, I would just go, I see a candle, I feel the chair underneath my butt, I smell reminiscence of cat food, disgusting. I see the paper in front of me with writing all on it. I can hear the cars in the distance. I can taste the dryness in my mouth. So those are just some things I may do, right? I start to just name things I see, hear, taste, smell, and that helps keep my brain off of the racing thoughts that I don't seem to be in control of in that moment, okay? We're in control of our thoughts, but someone gave me a really great analogy, and I love this. It's like you can't stop the bird from building a nest. No, you can't stop the bird from landing on your head, but you can stop him from building a nest. So it's the same thought, right? You can't help that the thought comes in, but you can stop the thought from building, okay? So let me just get to some questions. I wish I got cold when anxious or nervous. Instead, my armpits sweat. It's awesome. Yeah, exactly, right? Sweaty palms, sweaty armpits, sweaty body. I totally sweat when I get anxious. Just letting you know. If you see me sweating, I'm probably having a little anxiety attack in my... and I'm not telling you. Will this be saved for later? I need to get off my phone, but very interested in this. Yes, Megan, this will be saved for later. Absolutely. I will save it and publish it on this page. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 things you see, 4 things, and honestly, it doesn't matter which order that goes in. For me, I think 5 things you see, and 4 things you feel, and 3 things you can hear are the easiest ones. Taste and smell can be more difficult, so I tend to go with those first 3, but they're very helpful in grounding my body. Using your senses as well to soothe. What is something that I can either think about, that I see, I can visualize pretty birds in the sky, I can visualize a sunset coming up on a beach. Those can be really helpful. Visualizations of happy places, safe spaces, and we can work, and you can work either with a professional, we can work together on building some of those safe places using guided imagery and things of that nature. So guided imagery and meditation is also, if you start using guided imagery or meditation in your daily life, you are much less likely to have a panic attack, I assure you. Because you are just focused much more on relaxing and calming your body by using your breath, which is something that with anxiety we also need. So breath, the easiest and simplest thing to do is take a deep breath. Hands on your belly, everyone. When you take a deep breath, you don't want to do this. That's not a deep breath. To take a deep breath, we want to expand your belly outward while you breathe in, keeping your shoulders down. You may also try putting your hands on your head. That can be helpful. Okay. The other way you can breathe is called EFT tapping. Tapping the opposite sides of our body while we breathe in. So breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. You want to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. This also helps your body regulate your breath, and oxygen flow to your muscles and your blood creates more clarity in your brain and releases tension in your muscles. So something to consider is taking deep breaths. If you're breathing very short, quick breaths, that can cause you to feel panic. So we want to try breathe out if that's the case. Try and breathe out as much as you can. Try not to breathe in because you'll automatically breathe in. I have to do these when Eddie doesn't text me that he is home safe, so I don't think he said. Yes. So this is interesting. One of my friends just mentioned that, on nights sometimes we hang out. Her boyfriend won't text her that he's home, and he falls asleep, and then she gets super nervous. But this happens all the time. So this would be a great example of disputing our thoughts. So once we're in a calmer state, when it's about a situation and it's not a panic attack where we're trying to regulate the body and control the thoughts, we might want to work on disputing our thoughts, which we're going to get to in just a second. So positive self-talk is controlling your thoughts by expressing, something that's a more affirming belief. An anxious thought might be that I'm going to die, right? A positive self-talk might be, you're not going to die. That's ridiculous. There's nothing in the situation that's going to happen that create death for you. Fact checking, right? Is this a fact or is it thought? It's a thought. It's an uncomfortable thought, but it's not fact. I'm in no situation where I can die. Panic will not kill me. And I just have to regulate my thoughts and my body before I'll be okay. This has been super helpful. The mindfulness and positive self-talk. Deep breathing is always very helpful. But the other thing I've been finding very helpful is distraction. So not just, what evidence do you have that shows you're dying? Exactly. I have no evidence that shows me that I'm dying. So if there's no evidence to show me I'm dying, then it can't be a fact. If there's no proof or no fact, then it's not true, right? It's just my thought. It's just my opinion, or my fear in that moment. but not based on any evidence. So other things I've used: distraction, counting backwards by sevens from 100. So 100, 93, 85. And your brain has to do that. And every time it has to do that, it's distracted. So you're stop thinking about the thoughts you're having right now, and you're distracted by the numbers. So these are some techniques that I have. Disputing your thoughts is actually a really, in my opinion, it's a much more difficult process to do. It's not as easy as just, let's say, let's think of our thoughts. I do this in about 4 weeks with patients. It takes me to kind of get through the process of disputing your own thoughts, because it's difficult, and our thoughts are there because they've been ingrained in us somewhere else, right? They've been there for years. So to just say, hey, let me give you some tips and stop thinking that way, that's not realistic. And I don't want to give anyone false hope that I can change your anxiety or panic attacks in just that short of a time. It does take a few sessions for us to even just build on understanding the process of what anxiety is, what distorted thoughts we currently have, and how to overcome them with disputing our thinking. So this is about training the brain to think differently. And if anyone is interested in that, just know, a trained therapist in cognitive behavioral therapy will be the best person to help you with disputing thoughts. I currently have some openings in my schedule. That summer happens and it's coming up. So if any of you are not close friends of mine, I cannot see any real close friends of mine, but if you are someone through a friend, or if you have a friend or family member who's in desperate need of seeing someone, since I have a few spots that I think are going to be opening up, please let me know, and I can discuss, a family member of yours or something like that if you want to refer them to me. I love to get in people that, I know through other people or people who are stressed in that sense. I am very ethical, though. I do not see any of my friends as patients. So, in the past I had trained using friends and things like that, but as of right now, that's not something I can do. But if you are not a friend or someone I personally see here on this group, but you are someone that knows me through them, or you know someone who is in need of the help, that's sort of what I'm saying. If you know someone who is in need of my help, I may have some openings available soon, so you can let me know. And that's about it. So if you guys have any other questions about panic attacks or anxiety in general, please feel free to ask. Anxiety is really my specialty, and I love to talk about it, as crazy as that seems, but I do really love to talk about it. And I will say this: anxiety leads to depression if it's untreated. Depression leads to anxiety if it's untreated. So these are things they do go hand in hand, people. So if you are experiencing any of these symptoms of anxiety, or have had them for a very long time, and you're thinking that maybe there are times or situations in which you have depressed mood, it's something we could talk about. So think it up, listen through this. If there's anything I missed, or if you want more clarification on a specific technique or tip, let me know. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know this is a little long, but I really appreciate you supporting me and hopping on and watching. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.